Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the warmth of your welcome and for great compares and a great introduction there, and also for the kind words from Rob about my colleagues across Arts Council England, some of whom are with us over the next day or two. It's really great to have an opportunity to say good morning to you and to help kick things off. I think power and partnership, the two words that we've got here, are both really important words, and the Arts Council, we believe very strongly in partnership and collaboration and working together. And Rob touched on the ideas of co-production and co-creation, and they're really, really important as well. It's not us sitting behind a desk telling people what they ought to do. It's us creating and working with people to create an environment where they can produce the most amazing creative work. And, over the last, 13, 14 months now, that's been really tested. And I just wanted to say at the very start of this, I hope that everybody is taking good care of themselves and is well. I know how challenging it's been for everybody over the last 12 months or so. And, I hope that you're looking out for everybody and taking good care. And people's mental health and physical health has been very challenged over the last year. And we're very aware of that. And so the one thing I'd say is, be kind to everybody during the next day or two. Listen to people's points of view. They may not be the same as yours, but that's one of the great things that a gathering like this can do. It can bring people together to have a conversation, and that's a really, really important thing. One of the things we've been doing at the Arts Council over the last few years is having a conversation about what we do for the next few years. So we've been building, as Rob mentioned, our new strategy called Let's Create, which this is a physical version of it, but you can actually download it from our website if you haven't seen it. And one of the really powerful things there, one of the most powerful things, is that we connected with a lot of young people around the country to have a conversation with them about what they wanted to see from the Arts Council over the next decade, over the next 10 years. And that's really important, because if you're at school right now, you're going to be somebody who's going to either be a creative practitioner, someone who's working professionally in the arts and culture world, making work, or you're going to be an audience. And both of those groups of people are really, really important for us. So, we want to have it in this country, as we have for so many decades, people who've gone out here at home, but also right around the world to share their creative ideas, their innovation, their imagination. And, in so many parts of the creative world, we're known for this. We're famous for it. Our literature, our dance, our drama, our visual arts, our music. And that's something that I think is because we have a really good pathway for identifying talented people and taking them on that journey. And I think one of the things also that's always occurred to me since I've done this job over the last 6 years and before that is the way that talent is everywhere, in every community, people from every background, from every part of England. And we want to make sure that those talented young people have that talent nurtured and looked after. They have the opportunities to develop. They have the opportunity to try things out, and sometimes they'll try something out and they'll be brilliant at it and they'll love it. And other things they'll try out and they won't like it so much, but then they'll try something else and they'll like that. And I think that's really, really important part of the process. And then, in our schools and our colleges and universities, and also in our arts organisations as well, we have amazing experts in right across England in cultural education and in bringing subjects like art and design and dance and drama and music into young people's lives and letting them have a go, letting them participate, letting them learn about the best of what's been created already by all sorts of people, but also, really importantly, letting them create their new work. And that's what's exciting for me, because you've then got that next generation of creative talent there who are creating this new work. And the brilliant thing for someone, we're all some people like me getting on a bit now, and what we're seeing is a new generation of people coming through, imagining things that we could never have imagined, and we can learn from them. And I believe very passionately that we can learn from young people. And one of the things that we did, as I mentioned with Let's Create, was have a lot of conversations with young people, and some of the things that they told us in those conversations. And young people need experience to get experience, so that we need young people to be given that first chance to do something, to try something out, to learn, to have an experience that then they can use to develop their skills. So for those young people today who've been volunteering and been working on developing this over the last 6 months, and who are working with us and looking after us and challenging us today, this is a great opportunity for you. You should really seize that opportunity. But we're thinking more and more about how we, as the Arts Council, can invest in opportunities for young people. We also know that young people need role models as well. They need to see people who've been on that journey and who come from backgrounds and experiences like their own. So we're really committed at the Arts Council to making sure that all young people can participate and progress right across all the areas that we invest in. And we want also to have better careers advice, and also so we can actually make sure that people feel that the arts and cultural world is a world that's welcoming to them, whatever their background is. And that's something that's really, really important. And arts in schools are really, really important as well. For everybody, that's often the first place where they meet artists, they meet teachers who have an arts background. They can question, they can see things that's beyond their area of experience. And so we're really, really committed to working with schools to developing that. We have our Arts Mark programme, which is going to be 20 years old in the next academic year, and that's been there for schools who actually really care about the arts. And maybe if you're a young person and your school isn't an Arts Mark school, then maybe talk to your principal or head teacher or the governing body in your school and say, you know, we think it should be, because the arts are really important as part of what we do. And I don't think it's an either or thing. So if you're listening to this, English and maths and science and languages, they're important too. But it does mean for someone's full education, I think subjects like music and art and design and dance and drama as part of the overall mix are really, really vital. And we should help young people to be able to do all of those things in their school world, but also out of school as well. So, you know, things that happen after school in the afternoons and evenings and at weekends are also really, really important. And that's where our network of arts organisations up and down the country, and also our network of bridge organisations who are that interface, that bit that joins up between the arts world and the education world. And they do an amazing job at doing that. And they're very passionate about creating opportunities for young people, and they're very passionate about their local places as well. And that's one of the things that's really important to me at the Arts Council. You know, we have 9 offices around the country. 71% of our team are actually based outside of London, so we're very well spread across the country, and it's really important that we have national ideas, but also that they're interpreted and developed and co-created locally in places, in towns and cities and villages right across the country. Because you, with that local expertise and that local knowledge and experience, you know what it's like in your place, and you know what you've got that's different or special about your place, what you want to be famous for, and that's something that's for me is really, really important. Some of the things that young people told us, really an understandably strong concern about climate change, and that's something that we will represent within the Arts Council going forward as we start to develop Let's Create. That's a big part of what we're doing there. And you know, also talking about, as I mentioned earlier, health and well-being, particularly young people's mental health. And I think that, as I said, has come into real sharp focus over the last 12 months. And we're very committed to working in that area as well. And often the arts and cultural activities are a great outlet for people and a great way of connecting and learning and sharing experiences. And we're very alive to that. It's been brilliant to have that insight from young people and to hear directly from them. And so we will be establishing our first youth advisory board over the next 12 months, and that will be something that will be a really important part of our decision-making process as well. We want to make that meaningful, so it's not just a conversation. We want the young people to feel that the time that they're giving up for us to join that board will be something that will be useful to them as well, so giving them opportunities to learn and interact, and for us to learn from them. We, you know, for me, young people in education and culture and the arts has been something I've talked about for a long, long time. I wrote 2 government reports on this, getting on for 10 years ago now. And I've written about it time and time since. And this is not a plug, but in my new book, a relatively new book, Arts Dividend Revisited, which is looks at art and culture around the country, there's a big section on creativity and the arts, and why it's important for young people and why we need to develop that next generation of creative talent. And then we also have work that's going on in the Arts Council all the time in this area. In just a few days' time, we'll be publishing a new report updating the Darren Commission, which our chair, Sir Nicholas Sirota, set up when he joined the Arts Council a few years ago. And this commission has really looked at what we can do around creativity across all of young people's education. There's some new creative collaboratives that we'll be talking about, that we'll be setting up around the country from that. And creativity is really important. This is really important for those young people who want to have careers in the creative industries, but it's also really important if you want to have careers in anything else. When I talk to engineering companies and science companies, accountancy firms, they're all really interested in people who can think creatively, who can have imagination, who are able to tell stories. All of these things that you get from studying creative subjects and having creative education when you're young, you can put into place whatever your career is later on in your life. So I'm going to wrap up my opening comments there. I know there's an opportunity now, which I'm very excited about for some of the young people here to ask me any questions, and you can ask me whatever you like. I'll do my best to answer it. But thank you again, and have a fantastic session over the next day or two.
Thank you, Darren. I hope you're okay if I start the Q&A session with the first question created by the several LSEPs. And the first question is, what is your thinking of the future of LSEPs, particularly on the role that they can play of part of the Arts Council Let's Create strategy to 2030?
No, thank you very much. It's a good opening question. So local cultural education partnerships are really, really important for us. I think what's great is they bring together people in a place, and there are no better experts in their place. You know where you live, and you know what's going on there, you know what's exciting there and what's interesting, and having that expertise around the table, who are able to look at all the ways that different people put money in, all the different experts, all the different arts organisations that you've got, bringing them together is really, really important. And as part of Let's Create, we absolutely see them as being central to that, and really building up community expertise. So in local places, small places, big places, sometimes there'll be big cities, sometimes there'll be tiny villages, but having local cultural education partnerships there with a focus on those places is really, really important. So for us, that we see them as really important partners going through the whole of the next 10 years.
Our next question is also from several LSEPs, and it's, as you know, LSEPs are largely voluntary and they fundraise for activities. But what are the Arts Council's plans for financial support going forward, particularly for LSEP infrastructure?
Well, we'll be looking at this as we roll out the delivery plan for Let's Create, which is our 10-year strategy. So what we're doing now, we've published a document, which is Let's Create. We delayed it for about a year because of COVID, and it was sensible to concentrate on other things over the last 12 months, but we'll be starting to roll it out. So by the autumn, we'll have plans available for everyone to look at about how we're doing that. So, watch this space, but to reassure you, LSEPs are a really important part of things going forward.
We all agree that every child and young person has the right to access art, culture, and creativity, and to build their own cultural capital. So, in your ideal world, what does cultural capital look like for the younger citizens?
Well, I think one of the things that's quite important with that is that somebody doing a job like me doesn't tell younger citizens what it ought to be. So in a funny sort of way, I would almost throw the question back to you two. I'm not going to ask you, don't worry, but to throw the question back to you two and your friends and colleagues at school, who really need to define that for us, and we then need to respond to that. So I think it's really important. We know at the start of this, we talked about power, and I think we must make sure that young people have power to have their voices heard, and people like me doing jobs that I do need to be confident enough to listen to what you have to say, and then to help you to shape that, so we actually get the difference that you want to make in the world.
LSEPs are developing youth voice and opportunities for children and young people to be directly involved in shaping delivery. What do you think are the key areas that should be considered in this work?
Well, I think there's two things. If I was a young person, and it was a long time ago since I was a young person, but when I was a young person today, what I would be thinking is, what do I need now? What do I want to see from the arts world, from arts organisations, from my schools, from education organisations, from people like the Arts Council who fund all of that? What I want now, but also I'd have a bit of in my mind, I've been thinking, what do I need for the future? Because some of those things, they might take a few years to actually develop. So we need to also say, what are you going to see that you're caring and passionate about? How do you want to work? How do you want to be using your imagination and creating new things in 10 or 20 years' time? And we need to be able to put in place a support mechanism, a sort of infrastructure, a pathway that you can all follow then to help make that happen. So for me, it's about making sure that we've got the very best opportunities for young people in school and out of school as well, that we're making sure that the organizations that we invest lots and lots of public money in are making it easy for everybody from every background to connect with them and take part in what they do. And that then for those young people who want to have a career in the cultural world, that we've got a very clear pathway and we can support them right the way through, however they study, maybe into their early 20s and then beyond when they get their first jobs. And then also for some of those people as well, they don't want to work in this area, that's okay, but we want them to be our audiences because we want to have them coming to see shows and performances as well. And also for some of them, just participating in arts as a sort of leisure activity in the afternoons or the evenings or weekends, and we've got a lot of reading clubs or knitting circles or people who do amateur dramatics or who sing in a choir. All of these things are really, really important, and they're part of a very rich tapestry, if you like, that's been up and down the country of what culture means in different people's lives, and that's really, really important.
Is there value in a national manifesto for LSEPs as key local placemakers, and would Arts Council be supportive of this development?
I think it's really interesting. It's great to have big national programs and national ideas, but actually I'm a big believer, particularly some of our learning from the LSEPs, is they're more powerful by creating things from the ground in their local places. So I think actually having national conversations and having something that's an umbrella is really important, but it's actually more powerful because of the knowledge that people have about where they live and where they work and where they study, that actually people drive it through. So I think that there is always a risk if we put one national thing in place, actually that's not quite relevant to every part of the country simultaneously. And it's quite important that we find a way of having local voices there. So I'm really keen actually for us to be supportive, but also for things to be developed in local areas. And they'll all be slightly different, and that's okay. But also they'll all learn from each other as well. So we'll be able to look and see where somebody in one part of the country is doing something really brilliantly. We don't need to reinvent that at the same time in another part of the country. We can just learn from it, and we can start sharing and having that conversation. And I think that's why a gathering like today's is really exciting, because actually it's a great way for people to have an idea, to share ideas. You may hear one idea from one group of people, you think that's really interesting, I can build on that, I can add to it because of an experience or a bit of expertise that I've got, and then suddenly we get a better idea at the end of this process. So for me, it's about that mixture, national, yes, but local and on the ground and very real as part of people's lives is very important. One of the things that's really important for me is we invest money that's from people who pay their taxes or people who play the national lottery. And when you ask why do we invest that, for me in the end, we do that because we help people to have happier lives. And it's really, really important, I think, that people can be happy. And one of the things we can do is to create opportunities through the people we invest in, through the brilliant artists and creative people, for those amazing arts organizations or people who run museums or libraries. We can make those investments, and that's because people in villages, towns and cities right across England can then be happier. And I think that's a really powerful thing.
What does ACE think quality co-creation, particularly with CYP, looks like?
Well, I think one of the things we've got to learn is we've got to stop using acronyms and so things like that. So CYP for us, in case anybody doesn't know, is children and young people. So one of the things I'm always very keen on is that we try to talk to people in ways that are just normal conversations. And I think sometimes at the Arts Council and at different bodies like us, we can sometimes create barriers by having sort of jargon like that. So children and young people. So all the time, we want to have quality conversations. And I think one of the things about having a conversation is it's two-way. So you can have ideas, but it's really important to listen as well. And that's a really high quality part of having a conversation. So I think we're listening, and you know, we have some values at the Arts Council. We have 3 values that are central to what we do as an organisation. One of them is we're really ambitious, and that means that we want to have really high quality work, and we want to invest in people who create high quality work. So that's just as important for children and young people as it is for work for adults. And we want, and again, you know, and for children and young people considerably younger than you know, babies and when they're born, and working at that stage as well, high quality work for what's known as early years, really important too. We also, our next value is that we care, and we really do care. And I can tell you that for my colleagues, there's about 500 people who work for the Arts Council, and they've obviously all been working from home for the last 13 months, and they really care. And we're working with arts organisations and museums and libraries that have been really challenged over the last 12 months, and people who've had some really tough times. And our people, I can't tell you how much they care about making the right decision and about spending the money that we're lucky enough, privileged enough to spend as wisely as we possibly can to make the biggest difference. And the other thing that is really important for us is we're a learning organisation. So all the time we're learning, and sometimes we get things right, and sometimes we don't get it quite as right as we'd like to, and we've got to learn when that happens. And coming to events like this, and you know, there's a team of people from across the Arts Council who are here listening today. We'll learn out of this event because of what you've got to tell us. So they're very powerful things for us.
We would also like to ask you a question ourselves on behalf of young people, and this question is from us and children from our school. What inspired you to become involved with the arts and the Art Council?
So I started, when I was at school, I always wanted to be a radio DJ, and I started off working on the radio, and I read the news, and I did that for a long time, and then I became a radio producer, and then ended up running a radio station. And that was really important for me, because it was something that I was very passionate about. It was quite creative, and we were able to make programs, and I've been very lucky to be able to write some books as well. So that's quite a creative process. So always in my job, I've done things that are creative, and I've really encouraged young people to do that. But then I became more and more interested, and it started actually because of working with the government on cultural education, and I did some reports for them. I became more and more interested in that, and I started to work more and more in this area. So when this job came up 6 years ago, I applied for it, and I was very lucky to have got it. And the Arts Council is an amazing organisation set up, you know, to make great things happen. And as I say earlier, I'm really privileged to work with a brilliant group of people who are really creative, and they're really thoughtful, and they have great ideas, and they're very kind as well. It's an amazing team of people who all believe in the same thing. And what they basically believe in is that the arts of all sorts and cultural institutions like museums and libraries are really, really important part of everybody's life. And we want everybody to have the opportunity to have access to them, to be able to get involved with them, and to get the most out of them. And so for me, working at Arts Council is a great privilege. It's a brilliant thing. I get to have conversations with people like you guys, but I also get to meet all sorts of other people. And usually, although for the last year I've kind of been stuck here at home like everybody else, but usually I'm very privileged because I get to see some amazing work that's created by people all across the country. And that's something, when we're allowed to, and then I can get back on the train again and start traveling around, that I'm looking forward to seeing more of, hopefully later on this year.